Hello and welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I'm glad you stopped by. I thought I would do a little bit of a different video today. I wanted to talk about some of the struggles when you are homeschooling and also dealing with a chronic illness or chronic pain. And the reason I wanted to talk about this, I was debating whether to share this or not, because I wasn't quite sure if I wanted to talk about it or share it. I just thought to myself that I know what it can feel like to be going through going through something, whatever it is in your life. And you can get to a point where you feel very alone, or just you feel like you're the only one going through it, that nobody truly understands what it's like for you and what you are experiencing. And so I know I have felt that in the past. I figured I can't be the only one. This seems like a very specific video for a very specific person or a certain group of people, but I know you're out there. I know for a fact I'm not the only one. So I want to share this, not for anyone to feel sorry for me at all. I do want to be honest in my sharing, but please, I don't need sympathy, or I really don't need you to feel sorry for me. I just want to share honestly so that hopefully if you can relate, you don't feel alone, and you know that there are other people going through the same thing, and it is possible to still thrive. It's still possible to achieve a lot of the things that you want to achieve. Maybe you have to make adjustments, but it's definitely possible. So with that being said, I have had pretty bad back problems for my whole life. I actually was diagnosed with scoliosis when I was a very, very young child. Jakey, lay down. Around 6 years old, probably. From then on out, started my journey on just everything was just all consuming with my back. Now, I never had any issues in the sense of pain or discomfort or anything like that, actually. So the only reason why I knew I even had it was because the doctor found it during a checkup and saw that I had my spine was crooked. If you don't know what scoliosis is, I mean, you can look it up, but basically it's just a curvature of your spine, and it can vary how extreme it is. So there is a varying scale there, but mine was pretty severe. And by the time that I got to around the age of 13, they had been monitoring it, and it continued to, as I was growing, it continued to curve more and more and more. They kind of were like, okay, if it gets to a certain curvature, we're going to want to intervene at that point, because anything above, I think they said 40 degrees, I was a kid, so, basically they said if it gets to a certain point, it can be an issue because of the way that I actually had multiple curves. And so the way that my spine was curving, it wasn't just side to side, it was actually curving, turning my body too. And again, I didn't feel any of this. I mean, I could see it in myself, but I wasn't in any pain. It was at the point where they were like, at the rate that it's continuing to progress, if we don't do something, it can start to mess with your organs. It can start to kind of crush your organs. So I ended up having surgery when I was around 13 years old, and they put 2 metal rods in my back. So basically from the base of my neck all the way down to just above my hips, I've got 2 rods. One that's kind of just up and down, and another one that kind of goes sort of around my spine, sort of. I get squeamish just talking about it. And it's me, I know, it's weird, but I don't even like to think about it. I think because it's my back, I have a major scar on my back, but I don't see it, you know what I mean? I don't see it all the time. So I can kind of almost forget that I have these contraptions in my body, because if I think about it for too long, it gives me a little bit of bleh. Everything went well in the sense of, as well as it could have been. They were able to just straighten my spine a little bit. They couldn't straighten it completely, but I actually grew 2 inches on the operating table just from them straightening what they did, and they didn't even straighten my whole spine completely. And I'm 5'11". So I don't know what I actually would, how tall I actually would have been. Yeah, that was kind of the situation. And you know, the recovery was pretty brutal. It took like a full year to recover. I was like in a body cast. It was not good. They had to do like a bone fusion from my hip. So everything like went as well as it could have, but it was rough going from then on. It wasn't until after I had the surgery, not immediately after, but I would say by the time I hit mid-20s, is when I first started to feel any kind of discomfort in my back at all. I started to kind of feel a little bit of aches and pains in my back here and there, depending on what I was doing. For the most part though, I could do everything. Like, it wasn't really limiting me in any other way. You know, I have, if you don't know, I have 6 children. I was able to have children and I was able to get the epidural. So I'm thankful for that. But as I've gotten older, I am now in my 40s. And I would say, you know, every year the pain and the discomfort has got worse and worse. And it's more so due to the surgery than it is to the actual diagnosis that I have, which is so bizarre, you know, to think, but just kind of trying to give you guys a background of what it is I have, to explain what I deal with. It's a pretty invasive surgery and they do things very differently now too. Because of the fact that they basically are fusing these rods to your spine, it does interfere with a lot of like shock absorption and mobility issues. And so when I say that I have back pain, in my mind, I think of everything included. So it's basically my back, my neck, my shoulders, my hips. It's like the whole entire thing. You know, like I said, as I've gotten older and the years have gone by, the pain and just the dealing with it on a day-to-day basis has gotten worse. I would say probably the last 10 years, give or take, I've been in the worst level, the highest level of pain that I've ever been in. And I would say like it's chronic, you know, it definitely is chronic pain because, you know, when it first started, it was here and there, but I would say consistently for the last 10 years, maybe even longer, I've had pain every single day of my life. It's pretty much 24/7, and that sounds really extreme, but it's the truth. The level of pain varies, obviously, but I'm really in pain like all the time. And again, please, I'm not trying to, it's not like a sob story. I'm just trying to be like honest, because I think that looking at me, you know, I've been on YouTube for a while. I used to do more like day in the life vlogs and things like that. I would say looking at me, I would guess, just kind of seeing how I live my life and what I do. Even people in my real life, you know, who didn't grow up with me, kind of don't know the backstory necessarily. Until I tell them, until it comes up, have no clue that I even have any of this or suffer with any of this. It's not that I try to hide it because I'm embarrassed or anything like that. I'm more just, I feel uncomfortable with it being like the focus of who I am. I don't know if that's something that you might feel the same about. I don't know if you can relate to that if you go through something similar. It's like it's there all the time, and so I can't help but think about it all the time because it's there all the time. But at the same time, I don't want to think about it, and so I try my hardest to go about my day and do things as like normally as possible because I want to feel. Now I know normal is like, you know, what is normal? But you know, somebody who doesn't have to deal with something like this, I guess is what I'm saying. I participate in pretty much everything because I don't want to miss out. And that's more me. It's not because I'm trying to put on this show or this front for really anybody else. It's not about that. It's I feel so, I don't like that I have to deal with this. Like, who does? Like, let's be honest. Who wants to deal with any kind of chronic pain? But what actually makes me feel worse is when I have to opt out of things and I can't do certain things, especially with my family, my kids, and I'm willing to sacrifice not feeling so great for a while after and still being able to participate in activities with my kids. And so that's what I do. And so I think because of that, people don't see me as somebody who is suffering from any kind of pain, never mind chronic pain. So the reason that I wanted to share though how much of an issue it is, because I think sometimes people can be like, yeah, but if you were actually in pain, like if you actually had as much pain as you say, there's no way you'd be able to do XYZ. I'm not trying to make a case for, you know, my pain is more than your pain, but I know what I have to deal with, what I have to muster up in myself to do the things that I do. Obviously, my family, my immediate family, my husband, obviously, he understands because he lives with me and he sees me every single day and he knows. And if I'm ever sharing or expressing how I'm feeling, it's to him. And if I have to vent or if I have a meltdown or any kind of breakdown, it's to him. So he knows what I go through and he understands. And a lot of times he's even like, you need to take it easy on yourself. It's like what I said, I don't want to miss out on anything that I don't actually have to. So I'm saying all that though to say that taking on something like homeschooling, because we've been homeschooling now for 9 years. And so pretty much the entirety of the time that we've been homeschooling, I have been in this chronic pain and it's just continually got worse. So making a decision to homeschool my kids, as big of a decision as it was on a lot of different fronts, was also a big decision on the fact that how much of their education and the responsibility of it all was going to fall on me, knowing what I had to do, knowing what I wanted to do. I didn't have to do it, but you know, if I was taking on this commitment, I wanted to give it my all. Also, you know, I was going through pregnancies as well. You add in having a newborn and not having sleep and then trying to homeschool, you know how it is, right? Like if you've been there, I mean, that's hard already. Like when you're in a season like that, that's already hard when you have like little ones or you have a baby or whatever. But then you throw in having chronic pain, it just takes it all to another level. I'm not trying to come across as like this like Wonder Woman who's like, wow, look at all I do, even though I'm in so much pain, I still do it all. I'm more just here to share this to say that I think sometimes we can look at other people. Well, we do this regardless, right? It can be in any area of life. But in the homeschooling arena, we can look at other people and see what they're doing or what they show that they're doing. We can look at what their schedule looks like, what curriculum they're doing with their kids in the sense of like how much hands-on stuff there is, or the programs they're involved in, or the co-ops that they're involved in, or the extracurricular activities, or the nature studies, or like whatever it is. I mean, I'll speak for myself. I can feel very much like, whoa, I'm not doing enough. Now, you can feel that way with or without having chronic pain. You know, you could still look at people and compare yourself. You know, it's the whole comparison game, right? But I'm here to tell you that somebody who's been homeschooling for 9 years, I have a son who's graduated. He's getting ready to start college. My youngest is in grade 1, so I'm still going to be homeschooling for quite a long time at this point. It hasn't all been perfect. It hasn't all been easy, but I learned probably later than I should have that I cannot compare my reality, my home, my family, my schedule to, well, to anybody else, but especially to somebody who is not in the same phase of life I'm in and in the same situation or condition that I'm in. Now, no two people are alike no matter what, but it is definitely unfair to me, like to myself, to do that because I'm putting these like unrealistic expectations on myself. So for instance, I have never been able to be that mom that gets up at like 6 a.m. and does all the prep things before the kids wake up. That's mostly because it really is. It's because most of the time my nights are not very good at all. In fact, I can't really remember the last time I had a good night's sleep. And again, I'm just trying to be transparent and honest. Everyone sort of who knows me kind of likes to joke about the fact that I am definitely, I love sleeping in. It's my favorite thing. The seriousness of it all is that it's usually because I am running on very few hours of sleep, and whatever little sleep I do get is very much interrupted, very much not a deep sleep, very much uncomfortable. I wake up multiple times in the night. This is constant. Like this is as of last night. In fact, we went to church this morning and I woke up at like 4 in the morning. I just could not get comfortable in the bed. It got to a point where the tossing and turning was just like too much. I was exhausted, but I just could not get comfortable. I felt like I was laying on concrete I got up at 4 in the morning, went downstairs, and I was like reading for a few hours, and then at 8 in the morning I ended up falling asleep on the couch sitting up, and I slept for maybe 45 minutes before church. So more often than not, that is what my nights look like. Naturally, I'm going to be tired in the mornings. With that being said, I have just given into doing things the way that I have to do them to function in the way that I can, and what's best suited for myself and for my family. And I know that seems like, well, yeah, but I would still feel like I wasn't doing enough. For instance, we do morning time. We call it morning time, morning basket or whatever, morning cart, which is the time that we spend all together. We'll do our devotional and read alouds and poetry and whatever else we have going on. And ideally, I do try to do that first thing in the morning before we start our day and before we get into the rest of our subjects and stuff. I would say on average at least twice a week. That doesn't happen because I've had a bad night. And getting up at a normal time, never mind early, is very, very hard. Sometimes I try to just push through that and then I'm a mess. Like I'm extra a mess and I'm kind of not in a good, well, I'm really not in a good mood. And then everything gets to me. Inevitably, I end up like having a short fuse with the kids, and it never goes well. And it took me a while to learn the lesson. I realized like I don't have anybody to answer to. I'm answering to myself, and I'm setting up these expectations for myself that really don't even matter. Like they don't even matter. Who cares when I do morning time? Like who cares? What does it matter when I do it? First of all, it is not even the end of the world if we don't get to it, but it doesn't matter when we do it, because that's the freedom we have in homeschooling. Instead of forcing myself to do it if I'm not feeling well, and then inevitably the rest of the day kind of goes not great, I've been giving myself the grace to just say, okay, I know I'm not doing well this morning. I'm having an extra tough time kind of getting started. And a lot of the times, like I am awake, I'm already awake. My body is just not ready to do anything aside from kind of just sit there. And that includes talking. Sometimes the talking takes effort. My kids are great about, they will start on their independent work. If that's the case, they will do that first thing in the morning, and we kind of just flip things around. Sometimes we will end up doing morning time, group time in the later half of the morning, like just before our morning break, or sometimes we will do it after we come back from our morning break. There's even been times that we have done it during lunch. It gets done. I don't know why I was doing this to myself. Well, I do know why I was doing this to myself. Now, it's nobody's fault, so please hear me out. I'm not faulting anybody because everyone made me feel bad. No, of course not. But we have this tendency, right? We see social media, we see what people are doing or what they say they're doing. It doesn't even mean that they're doing it all the time. And maybe they are, and that's fine. But it doesn't necessarily also mean that they're always going to come on and be like, oh, just wanted to let you guys know that today was an off day and we didn't do it. So I just wanted to let you know we didn't do it. Of course not. So, you know, I just putting this pressure on myself where it didn't even matter. And I was causing myself stress, like actual stress, until I realized that I'm in control of how we navigate our homeschool day. Even if it comes down to having to omit something or eliminate something from the day, and I'm being even-tempered and not agitated and not, you know, that is always a better choice than trying to do all the things but be exasperated and wearing myself thin. Now, I know that I said previously that I want to do all the things and that I try to do all the things, and that is true. But I do make adjustments, little adjustments like that. I had to finally just give myself permission to do things on the couch, or on really extreme like situations, do things from my bed because it's just more comfortable for me. As I'm saying it, it sounds silly, but I just was always thinking like, we have a homeschool room, we should be using the homeschool room. Like meanwhile I'm sitting on the couch with the kids, you know, or I'm up here in the room with the kids. The kids don't care. If anything, they're always like, oh, okay, you want to do it on the couch? Great. Oh, we're gonna do it on your bed? Fun. And I'm the one who's like stressing out about nothing, like literally nothing. My number one like piece of advice is to not feel bad about doing the things you have to do to help yourself make it through the day. I'm not talking about, this is very different than just like, oh, me time and, you know, doing all the things for me. This is more about like actually being able to be there for your family, especially in the capacity of homeschooling, because it does require a lot more of your time, a lot more of your energy, just you physically being there, being in the right headspace. Because like I said, if I am not sleeping well at night, if I'm not taking care of myself, if I'm not getting the rest that I need, then even mentally it takes a toll. And so being able to be coherent enough to be teaching my kids and be alongside them during homeschool days can be tough. And so in that sense, like I've got to the point where I'm like, I have to do these things so that I can be there in the best way possible within my capacity for my kids. Everyone knows at this point that at night I end my night with a bath. Like pretty much every single night I am in the tub for over an hour, because it is the only like real relief I get when I'm in the hot water. Because, you know, as the day goes on, like no matter what we've had going on, usually once 5 o'clock hits, the day starts to really take a toll on me physically, and I kind of start to take a bit of a nosedive the rest of the night. So that's kind of a crucial time for me to try to sort of get back to my, I don't know, regular, as close as I can to my regular self as possible. Physically, like I said, between working out however I can and doing things like getting off my feet as much as possible, being in the most comfortable spots that I can, having baths at the end of the night, that's what I do to sort of tend to my physical self. There is that aspect of, and if you are somebody who deals with chronic pain, you will know there's definitely a connection between the physical pain and your mental state. I've gone through a lot of highs and lows when it comes to what I'm dealing with. I'm a firm believer in God and in His sovereignty over my life and everything that is going on in my life. I don't believe that He is the cause of what I have, but He is no less in control of my situation. Whether or not I'll ever get healed of this on this side of eternity, I don't know. It would be great if I did, but I've finally come to terms with accepting the fact that I may not. But I do know that one day, and it'll be for eternity. So, you know, there is a bright side, that there will be one day when I'm in a perfect body. That doesn't mean that it's been easy. It has not been an easy road. I've had a lot of lows, and I still do. Like when I'm at sort of my worst, like the worst shape that I can be in, I still have breakdowns and I still cry. And I still there's this sense of still mourning, because, you know, there was a time when I wasn't, you know, in pain. And so it feels so far away. Like it feels like such a long time ago. Well, it was a long time ago. But a part of me kind of is like, you know, grieving that, because I wish that I had, it's like I wish that I had known. I feel like I took it for granted that I was in the shape that I was, you know, just kind of grieving that part of my life and not knowing if I'll ever get back to that. And seeing, you know, when I see that every year I get slightly worse than the year before, that can take a toll as well. My point in saying all this is to say that it's just as important to take care of your mental state. You know, for me, again, I try to just do whatever I can do that I know I have control over, like things that I can do myself. And it's super important for me to stay in the Word and to be always praying. That is truly how I get through my days. It really is like a minute by minute, hour by hour, day by day situation. And the good thing is that God's mercies are new every single morning, which means that I don't have to rely on yesterday's strength to get through today and tomorrow and the next day, because His mercies are new every morning. And I need to just lean into that and rely on that. It's not by my own strength. And, you know, God can take any situation and turn it for good. It doesn't mean that this thing I have is good, but he can take the worst situation and turn it for good. I'm still learning. Like, I am nowhere near having it all figured out, like nowhere near. But what I continue to learn from this situation and take from this situation is just my complete and utter dependency on God for everything. Because, you know, it's kind of that whole situation where if you don't go through lows, you don't appreciate the highs. As much as I don't enjoy being in the situation that I'm in, I realize that I cannot do it on my own. Like, I just can't. Even if I do all the things I just said, I still can't do it on my own, and it's still not enough. The only way that I get through each day is depending on God and his strength, because his strength is perfect in my weakness. When you have a physical weakness, that becomes so real and so much, like, it hits so much closer to home. I could take something like this and be bitter and upset about it. I choose, and this wasn't always the case, but I choose to use this to every day just surrender a little bit more to Christ. And that includes my entire situation, that includes my children, this whole thing that we're doing with homeschooling. Because when we started homeschooling, there was really no crazy thing that went on that made us homeschool our kids. We pulled out our kids from school. We had a few kids in school at the time, and it's not like there was any event or catastrophe that happened that made us pull our kids out. This calling, this feeling I had, this sense of just, this is what I was supposed to be doing. I was supposed to have my kids at home with me, and this is just what God was calling me to do. Me dealing with this situation, with my pain, does not change what God has called me to do, because nothing about it was ever promised to be perfect or easy, and that can be said with anything in life. And I have to trust that he has a plan, that he's watching over me, that he knows what I'm going through. He knows how difficult this is. He knows our situation, and, you know, he cares about me. He loves me more than I will ever know. And so I just have to trust that I am still in his will, even though I'm maybe not doing the things that everybody else is doing in the way that everyone else is doing it. Our homeschool is not perfect. Our days are less than perfect. Everything doesn't always go the way I want it to go. He can still take that and do so much with that. It's not a waste. It's not for nothing. I don't have to throw in the towel just because I am dealing with this. And so I just want to leave you with that encouragement, that if you are in any kind of similar situation as I am, and you struggle with day-to-day dealing with any kind of pain or situation in homeschooling your kids, or maybe you are thinking about homeschooling your kids and you might be thinking, I don't know if I could do it. Like, how can I do it when I'm already dealing with this? I would really encourage you to just pray. You know, if God's calling you to do this, he will make a way. If he is calling you to be in a certain place, he is going to prepare that place for you. He is going to work all things out. And I really, truly believe that. If anything, that brings me comfort. It really does. It is what brings me the most peace, because I have seen firsthand with my own eyes what things look like when I try to take control and I try to just be like, yeah, I can do this. Today's going to be different. I can do it. I'll push through. And it never ends well. Like, it never ends well. But on the days when I just surrender myself, I surrender the day to God and I take his lead, it's like night and day. I kind of feel like I may have been a little bit all over the place. I knew what I wanted to talk about, but I didn't have like a plan necessarily. Just wanted to speak from the heart and share my experience. Hopefully that came through to you as you're watching this, and I hope you feel encouraged. I hope you feel blessed. I hope you feel seen and understood. I see you, I understand you, I am with you. I'll be praying for you. So I would love for you to leave me a comment down below. Let me know if this was helpful for you, and I will see you in my next video.